Very good afternoon, everyone. Charles here, Frgnt Daily Chart Analysis time. Just approaching 5:30 here, local in Milan. And I was sending out a couple of messages, but I figured it's better illustrated through a video. So this morning felt like quite a simple day, but as price action has sort of rolled on throughout the day, it's presenting a couple of conflicts that I think it's nice to talk about. I'm currently toying with the idea of US dollar CAD longs at the moment. We took the shorts this morning simply based on the Asia range. This morning I mentioned the only position that I could possibly take on US dollar CAD would be an Asia range short, and that's simply because using an Asian range type of strategy that I trade, it takes into no consideration, I should say, it does not take into consideration any of that higher time frame analysis. And you can see quite clearly based on the top right hand chart that we are sat beautifully in that higher time frame weekly order block. So based on my strategy, I am of the assumption that price is going to want to look too long from that area. However, based on an Asia range strategy, based on that bearish move coming out of the market from here, that of course broke structure to the left, prices then crept right back up to that 15-minute order block, looked for a lower time frame break of structure. It was a very aggressive lower time frame 1-minute break of structure that provided me then with a 5-minute order block that I took a short from. I was able then to close my position out fully by the Asia range low. However, with that said, based on the higher time frame analysis, I want to take a long position. Now, using the higher time frame analysis, it's also very important to head over to DXY to understand exactly what the DXY is doing as well. So a bit of conflict on the DXY. So currently the DXY is hovering around the daily 50 EMA. If we look to the bottom right hand chart, we can see how price was reacting or is currently reacting to that daily 50 EMA. Price struggled to close and break above that daily 50 EMA for a very long time. And using most recent price action, we can see even yesterday price wicked up into that daily 50 EMA. Of course, that is this price action here on the 15, however, failed to close above it. So the fact that I am higher time frame looking at potential US dollar CADs, US dollar CAD long, I should say, I also need to understand whether or not the DXY is actually showing signs that we could also go long. Now, of course, on the lower time frames, i.e., if you look at the 15-minute time frame and don't take into consideration that the daily 50 EMA, we can see quite clearly that price, if I take you to the 4-hour time frame, bottom right hand chart, we can see we've broken above that 4-hour 50 EMA, we've dipped down below simply as a result of price now making that first high, that higher low for potential higher high continuation. Now you can see my only conflict coming in is the fact the higher high continuation is actually at its peak now. It's at that daily 50 MA. So now becomes the question, are we going to continue long and of course look to finally close above that daily 50 MA, making sure or giving way that Thursday, tomorrow and Friday will be just retests into daily and 4-hour 50 EMA before looking to take price higher for the end of the week back up to that 50 EMA and then closing that market gap that is still available? Or could it be a bit of a trap in terms of not a liquidity grab, but it's simply the daily 50 MA doing its job? I don't expect that price is going to reject the daily 50 MA as soon as it taps it. What I do understand and what I have seen for many years is that, of course, price on the lower time frames will look to trend above and below certain EMAs before then looking to reject it. So at the moment, as I said, I'm looking at potential US dollar CAD long, but I have to be quite careful because my strategy suggests that we're more than likely going to look to reject this daily 50 MA to the downside, but still reject the 4-hour 50 MA to the upside. And as you can see, the bottom left hand chart, that is the 4-hour time frame. And you can see that 4-hour 50 EMA is doing its job. Price is respecting it, closing above it, and continuing to push away from it. So if I bring us now back to US dollar CAD, you can understand why equally I would like to look for long positions. However, what must be said on US dollar CAD on the 4-hour time frame is we're not really out of the woods yet. The 4-hour time frame has made its most recent low, i.e. from this area, giving way to this is the fact, a structure point in the market. And again, you can see that quite clearly, the fact that price is struggling to break and close above it. Once price, of course, looks to break and close above that area, then I believe it will be plain sailing for US dollar CAD longs. So the best play, the best course of action for US dollar CAD longs, in my opinion, would be at least to wait for a 4-hour candle closure above, hopefully, if price is going to want to make that move, to close above that 4-hour 50 EMA. What that would look like if pretty much the first sign of a structure break. We have a little bit of an indication just here, but prices continue to follow suit. So what I would like to see is a 4-hour candle close above that area, retest that 4-hour 50 EMA and any liquidity left behind, which could simply be the area that I'm currently potentially looking to take a long from anyway. But as opposing to now trading into the 4-hour 50 EMA that is currently not in my favor here, if I move that along, you can see that the 4-hour 50 EMA is very much so against my position as a result of the most recent 4-hour, excuse me, 4-hour candle closing below it. And the better illustration would be the most recent 4-hour candles have also not really shown any clear bullish signs that we are looking to close above that 4-hour 50 EMA. So currently for US dollar CAD longs, the 4-hour 50 EMA is very much so against the position, and that is the reason why I'm yet to look to take that long position. Now we only have an hour and 25 minutes left of that candle to close, so I'll look to see how that 4-hour candle is going to close, and then potentially look at taking a long in line with my higher time frame bias that the DXY is also looking to long. However, for me to get the absolute certainty also for the DXY to show clear signs of being ready, I need the DXY daily candle to close above that daily 50 EMA. So today, really, in terms of the long positions, it could well be a no trading day for me on US dollar CAD longs using DXY as a confluence. Now, a couple of positions that had me umming and ahhing today. Euro US dollar long. So at the moment, I still don't really see any reason to take this long position. What I can see, the highest degree of confluence would be the fact that we are retesting that daily 50 EMA towards the upside. That's all well and great. However, my higher time frame confluence doesn't really give me any indication, i.e., even by way of daily order block refined, there's nothing on the 4-hour order block for me to look, or 4-hour time frame for me to actually look to long from. However, the only thing that I do have is a potential session low in and around this area, but it's not really a clean session low in my opinion, hence why I'm still reluctant to look for a pullback long on Euro US dollar. Now, of course, my reasoning behind that as well, I do recognize that my higher time frame bias on the DXY going long is pretty much preventing me from taking a long position. I understand that my best type of position is going to look to use that DXY as the full degree of confluence, which would be once the DXY is ready to go long, I then believe that I am ready to short Euro US dollar. So it's going to be one of those for me on Euro US dollar that it's, although I can see the long, I just don't believe I should be in the long. So it's one of those where prices come back into that daily 50 EMA, 15-minute order block that is there. However, that 15-minute order block, it hasn't really done anything from my opinion. I would love to have seen this 15-minute price action actually start to break most recent areas. At the moment, price from this area hasn't really done enough for me to look at taking this. Therefore, for me to really, if I was to focus on taking a Euro US dollar long, I'd at least want to see this area broken. And what that would look like is price push above that area, then come back down to show me that this is an area where I should be longing from. However, once price gets up to this area, I am more than likely going to be waiting for the shorts from there to take price back down in line with the DXY, looking to go long. And of course, once no, we won't talk about that for now. So we'll go to another pair. GBP US dollar. Again, another position that had me umming and ahhing. Should I take the long or not? Again, for the same reasons, pretty much. that we had on Euro US, exactly Euro US dollar, is the same reason why I'm still yet to even focus on taking a long position here on GU. As you can see, I've got my alert here just to see the performance coming out of that area. But again, this 15-minute order block, it just hasn't done enough for me just yet. Again, if I would have seen this 15-minute price action break some highs, i.e. start taking out some of these areas here and then pull back, absolutely, my entire bias would be completely different. However, what I could see also here, based on, forget about the DXY for a moment, and also we can say that we aren't fully bearish just yet on the 4 hour time frame, but we certainly do have bearish signs coming out of the market. We can see here on G that we're perfectly trending above that 4 hour 50 MA. We went into a range, we broke the range, made the first low, pull back into that lower low, lower high, and in my opinion, we're looking to now create that lower low continuation. Does that make sense based on the fact that I have the understanding that at this moment I'm looking for long-term DXY longs? So again, this is a reason why I'm electing not to take a long position on GU, despite seeing a potential long position. I just don't feel that that is the favored position at the moment. I feel like even if I am to wait for price to take the short, and of course you'll say, well, that means price is going to get up there, why didn't you take the long? I think it's just best sometimes, once you're able to understand your favored type of position, I think it's just best to wait for it. And that's through experience, that's through trading reversals, having success trading reversals, having not so great amount of success trading reversals. And to be honest, over time, I'm sure it evens out. But when you can negate having to take pointless losses on the way to then recoup that on the actual position that you prefer to take, over time you'll understand that from time to time you just have to leave it alone. And what I mean from time to time, if price was to have shown me a little bit more on that 15-minute time frame, even let's say perhaps this current 4 or the previous 4 hour candle closed above that 4 hour 50 MA, so we'd be in around here, we'd have had a nice trend to the upside, breaking significant structure areas, then absolutely I'd look for a long position. At least I have more of a confluence based on my 4 hour time frame, as well as intraday perspective on the 15, and of course recognizing that we are trending above on that daily time frame. However, I still believe the best play would be a short using the 4 hour confluence, trending down into that daily 50 MA, and we'd have the much better range coming up from the highs coming down to the lows, as opposing to taking this long position right into that 4 hour 50 MA. With that said, that's very similar to US dollar CAD, hence why US dollar CAD is not a play that I'm looking to take at the moment. This 4 hour candle is telling me everything I need to know based on whether or not I should be looking for a long or not. So we'll wait to see how this current 4 hour candle closes, and then I'll take action from there. But at the moment, as you can see, there's no order block here that I've looked to use, just setting the position to see if it makes sense when it would materialize. So we'll come back to that at some point. So that was really the complex of the day. If we have a look at AUD USD, it didn't come to my favorite areas in terms of the short position. And then with that said, using GU, EU, and AU as complements. So now the question is, well, would I take a long on AU? At the moment, based on 50-minute structures, no, I would not. So that means, should I really be looking for a cross pair, i.e. a pair that is correlated, GU and EU, should I be looking for long positions there? Using that only, the answer would be no. And now looking at the higher time frame on AU, I've got a very similar setup to what I have on EU, I believe it was, or was it GU? Where are we? Yeah, GU. We've had a break of the range, created the first low, price pulled back into a lower high scenario, looking for the lower low continuation. Now, if we compare that with AU, we have exactly the same. Range identified, low, break of EMA, pull back after the low, lower high, looking for that lower low continuation rollover. So AU was definitely one of my favorites today. Just unfortunate that price didn't pull back up into the favored areas to look for the short. And then with that said, if it's looking as if AU is going to potentially continue shorting, that's telling me that maybe the DXY does have that additional power or the additional strength in it that I'm looking for to support my higher time frame bias, or simply that the euro and the pound is simply stronger than the Aussie dollar. And that's just one of those that we have to come to a conclusion and take the risk only if you believe it's worth it. So looking at the 15-minute time frame now on the DXY, I recognize that we could potentially get a rejection from the daily 50 MA. I recognize we could reject the 4-hour 50 MA to the upside. And then with that said, that would allow us room to the downside on the DXY, which could well give light to Euro, US dollar and GU long positions. But for me, understanding that the 15-minute time frame could simply be higher high, higher low, higher high, more than likely that if I don't get stopped out, if I were to take an EU GU long, if I'm not to get stopped out break even, then I'm or rather vice versa, if I'm not to get stopped out as a full stop loss, it will certainly be stopped out at a break even trade. So just monitoring all pairs at the moment. As you can see, lots of alerts on the charts above. I'll have to bring that slightly higher to see if this 15-minute order block holds. And I think the best course of action really is just wait to see how those daily candle closes, wait to see how the 4-hour closes on US dollar CAD to see if that's worth even taking the risk based on the fact expecting DXY rejection from the daily 50 MA. It's simply one of those days where once you can understand market behaviors, what's going on, very easy to say, well, potentially using my higher time frame analysis and my directional type of strategy, it's simply a no trading day, potentially. But based on the US dollar CAD shorts, very happy with that short position in terms of the Asia range. And that's really it, to be honest, guys. So thank you very much for listening. Hope you're able to gauge a little bit out of that in terms of really selecting your favored pair, understanding what the DXY is doing, understanding the potential upside or downside to your cross pair that you're trading based on what the DXY is doing. Particularly for me, as I trade the US dollar cross pairs, predominantly EU, GU, and AU, US dollar CAD for good measure as well, using the DXY to understand exactly when those turnaround points could well be, and do they actually make sense to double check my analysis on the pair that I'm looking to speculate on, whether or not it makes sense based on the DXY. So if the DXY isn't looking to play ball in favor, then I have to double check my analysis in terms of the trades that I want to take. So thanks very much for listening. As always, I hope that helps. Until the next one, take care. Charles.